why does that matter theoretically?
So we'll divide this question in two parts. So maybe Ryan, you take the second part, but okay. Theoretically, for me, like theoretically, is that there are a lot of papers, and we know quite a bit about diversity in boards from the point of view of gender. So there's a lot of research, especially since this gender quota on boards was passed, that require 40% women on boards of large companies. So, and especially after the Me Too movement. So there is a lot of research on diversity on boards, actually all over the world. And there's also some research on race on boards. So what we wanted to do is basically use some of these theories and apply it to studying LGBT board members, LGBT plus board members, and see if those theories, those theoretical arguments about having heterogeneous board with different points of view to avoid group thinking, to avoid having like a dominant voice and having more of a diverse thought would positively impact the measurement of stakeholders, the measurement of outside investors in terms of their performance. So I'm gonna turn it to Ryan to expand from there. We basically unfold or unpack the mechanisms that show this positive relationship between this diversity and firm performance.
Thanks, Ruth, for that. It's true. These mechanisms, we actually show it through a conceptual framework that we actually propose in this paper, in which that we demonstrate the mediating effect of the ESG for them to be able to reach into to higher enterprise value. So where are we coming from here, and how do we contribute to theory here? First and foremost is that we actually provide an explanation why this happens. So what we try to do is that there is as what Ruth has already mentioned before, that there is a huge literature about talking about that if you have diverse boards, you get more resources that can be used for better decision making at the board level. So in this case, we do actually agree with this one and actually draw on this assumption. But then again, we push it further and argue that it's not only about those resource-based explanations, but there's also a signaling tool for us as if we have these LGBTQ plus directors in the boardroom. Why? Because in many cases, external stakeholders, they do not have complete information about how firms operate, on what are the ideals and and what do they care about in these firms. But then again, if you have these types of of individuals in the organization, especially at the top of the organizations, then it can really reflect that they do care about, as an organization as a whole, about these issues in organizations. So in our argument, if you have these visible LGBTQ plus directors out there, then they do care more about the diversity, equity, and inclusion within the organization. And this actually can be reflected specifically with the ESG performance that they do. And in fact, we actually demonstrate that, and we find empirical findings to show that one. And apart from that, of course, we also push further the boundaries of the relationship between diversity and firm performance, in which that we unpack this mechanism. That's what Ruth has already mentioned, that ESG, specifically corporate social performance, would be the one driving these relationships. So that's basically our main theoretical contributions in this paper.